Hi, this is Charlie and Alastair from TripTease, and we're going to talk a little bit about our A/B test that we've just run. It's the largest ever A/B test on hotel websites, over 10,000 hotels being tested at the same time, and what we were testing was personalization. We wanted to see whether adding personalization to hotel websites has an impact and whether it drives higher conversion rates. So Al, can you tell us a bit about why we did the test, what we were looking for?
Yeah, so we've obviously been working with personalization for a while, and we test the impact of personalization often on a standalone test for like individual large customers, but this was an opportunity to really give all of our hotels the confidence that this has a big impact. So we set the test up to run across 10,000 hotels. We ran it at about an 80-20 split. The benefit of having lots of hotels means that you can run that kind of test without degrading like normal service, so turning the product off for too many people. So we ran the test. We ran it for over a 2-week period, and then we got back a number that reached our kind of statistical confidence level, and fortunately it was a good one.
So we ran this test. What's the impact of personalization on hotel websites?
So it was a fabulous result. We saw a 16% increase for the small groups and independents we typically work with, so they made up the majority of the people in the test, and so for them there was a really healthy, sizable uplift, which is great.
Great, so if I'm a small group or an independent hotel, I can expect a 16% increase in conversion rate with personalization. And did we see much variance amongst small groups and independents?
Yeah, for sure. So we do. This is obviously a baseline average, so you will typically see some variation around that when you're testing. But so you see some customers who are getting much higher than that. And the nice thing is that the characteristics of those customers is typically that they're doing a little bit more with our products. So they tend to be making more of the segmentation options, really tailoring the message to the needs of each customer arriving, and we see a much higher conversion rate as a result.
So I could expect 16% as my average, but the more personalization I deliver, the higher the conversion rate we see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, can we talk a little bit about, well, what does that mean? What actually were the personalization options that were being tested?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a real breadth of possible options you can send to customers in terms of message types. You know, we have obviously price comparison messages, we have exit messages, we have on-site nudge messages, and you can segment all of these by different customer types. So new versus returning, by which website they've come from previously, the amount we expect them to be spending, like their likelihood of conversion, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so for example, I might be a French hotel and I see American visitors and I see Russian visitors coming, and based on where someone's coming from, I might deliver different pop-up messages, nudge messages, a different price check based on the dates they're searching and where they come from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of our customers are like that one in particular. They know their core markets and they really want to drive business from those markets, and they tend to tailor not only the actual content of the message, but potentially also the language as well.
So A/B testing is something we've been doing for a long time, and we're often asked by hotels, can I run an A/B test on my own website? What is the reason that we chose to run a test across thousands of hotel websites instead of each hotel getting their own test?
Yes, it's a great question. So when it comes to A/B testing, you're obviously testing one variant against another, and to really tell the difference between the effectiveness of those two, you need a lot of volume. So, like one example, an analogy to this might be in the UK for decades now we've been told we need to eat 5 fruit and veg a day, and we all try our best to adhere to that. But if you eat 5 fruit and veg a day for a couple of weeks, you probably won't notice the difference in your overall longevity, right? You don't know if you're going to live an extra 2 or 3 years. Like, it's hard to really know that. But when they look at the data across the entire population of like 70 million people, you have a much better sense of actually if this group of people who eat fruit and vegetable live a lot longer. So that's the kind of levels of volume you need to really understand whether there's a difference between two things. When we look across our portfolio of hotels, actually it's only 1% of hotels really have that volume to be able to run a standalone test, right? And so most of our hotels just don't have the kind of statistical power to run a standalone test. So this was our, so what we wanted to do here, right, was bring that level of volume and run a test that would would prove conclusively across all of our hotels that this was something that was positive, not just for one particular customer.
Got it. So if an individual hotel says, I want to test personalization
Yep.
with an A/B test on my website, you're saying 99% of the time, individual hotels or even small groups don't have enough volume to run a test that would tell them emphatically if something is true.
Yeah,
So therefore, we ran a test across thousands to get the volume, so we know whether something works.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's a bit of background about why we ran at scale. Can you also talk a little about, what are some of the subtleties or the keys to running really effective tests?
Yeah, so A/B testing is actually quite hard. Like the easy bit is splitting traffic, right? So customer A arrives, you send him to one variant, customer B arrives, you send him to another variant. But actually, there's so much that can technically go wrong between in that process. So we sometimes see, with testing tools we've used in the past, instances of people flipping between variants, like when they're a returning visitor or third-time visitor, and that can completely skew your result. You need to keep people like solely in each variant to test effectively. So one of the things we like to do we have to do, following good strict methodology, is to run what we call an AA test. So we effectively run a test where we send people to different segments, different variants, but those variants actually are completely the same. And then we test, and what you should see is absolutely no difference in the result, right?
Yeah.
They should convert at exactly the same rate. And if there is a difference in there, that's probably because there's something technically not quite right, and so we go deeper and we make sure that we've got it set up correctly. Okay. So yes, there's a lot that goes into it. It's quite challenging. But
the key takeaways here are you've got to have volume, you've got to do AA tests ahead of time to make sure you've got the right setup.
Yeah.
You've got to look out for variant flipping
Yeah.
and many other things, and all of that we did. If you're interested in the details of statistical power, then get in touch. We'd love to talk more, but I guess the main point we wanted to make is this was a large-scale test run very rigorously. Okay, so we've seen the impact of personalization on hotel websites. What's next?
yeah, so as this test kind of showed, like the customers get a lot more value the more they use the product and the more they target and tailor their messages to smaller and smaller audiences. We obviously kind of already knew that as well, and so for a while now we've been building out a lot more automation in terms of how this product's set up to make it super easy for time-poor customers to get a lot of value out of the product. So they don't have to spend loads of time micro-segmenting and creating hundreds of campaigns for smaller and smaller audiences. We can actually take that on their behalf and drive a lot of value as a result.
Okay, so next evolution in personalization is just far more automation.
Yep.
Through personalized messages.
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. Well, hopefully that's been helpful. If you're a hotelier who's interested in bringing personalization to your website, we've proven it works. If you'd like more information about that, or if you'd like to know how you could do it, please visit triptease.com and get in touch.